Welcome back, everyone. We have a special guest with us. We have Holly West from Zepparella and Dead Groove Band. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing
Nice to
great,
meet you,
dude.
Carly.
Well, let's get into this. You're currently playing in Zepparella and Dead Groove Band. Do you take from one band that you apply to the other?
um, well, they're two totally different bands, right? So I have a tribute band, which I'm paying homage to John Paul Jones and the mighty Led Zeppelin. So I'm learning everything that he has already established. And then the other band is a original band, right? So
Mhm.
in my original band, I have to make my parts and come up with things. So I think throughout my entire career of playing other people's music, it really has got a lot of technique and just playability and just it, you know learning about music. And I've taken that into anything that I've written that's original.
Definitely. And what I did read is that you are a self-taught musician, so I thought that was crazy to find that out. Um,
I mean, it self-taught for the majority of the time that I've been learning. When I was younger, I would sit on my floor with a keyboard and try to find matching pitches and stuff. And then I was writing lyrics, writing poetry since I was really, really young also.
mhm,
But when I was 13, I went to guitar lessons for about a year.
mhm.
Um, and I just didn't get it, as a lot of 13-year-olds don't get it unless they really stick with it. And so after that, I would just try to teach myself little bits here and there until I finally got into a band, and then that kind of catapulted everything. And I just really tried my best once I got into a band.
Makes sense. I just found that amazing because especially from like you say you're learning from being in bands and stuff like that, from being self-taught and kind of like learning stuff on your own. John Paul Jones is a hard bass player to learn stuff from. So,
It's true. It's true. And I think with any instrument, 'cause I play multiple instruments. I think with anything, it's really just about finding the connection from the instrument to the music. Really listening. I tell my students that uh, 80% of learning music and playing music is listening.
mhm. Oh yeah.
And I mean, it really comes after that. That's the most important part.
I agree with that all the way because I still take lessons till this day, and you still have to you have to actually listen, and that's how you catch your groove, and you have
Mhm.
to feel it. That's what I've always taken from it. From you, like doing John Paul Jones bass lines, how do you go about learning them for yourself?
Well, there's a lot of factors, because when we decide to do a song, you
Mhm.
have a couple different versions you can choose from. You can choose from the live version where there's four people, or you can choose from the studio versions which have four people but multiple tracks, right? So we have to and I don't play piano on stage.
Mhm.
There's a couple of reasons for that, but I do play mandolin. So but even the mandolin parts are overdubbed and stuff. There's a lot of things going on to make it fuller. And so you really have to learn how to decipher which parts you're going to learn and which parts are going to feed the song better. We
Mhm.
do take a little bit from the live versions as well, and sometimes they deviate a little bit from the studio versions. So when I'm learning something, we establish that first, and then I establish kind of what the groove is based off of what I'm listening to. So I listen to it, try to find the key, try to find, uh, neighboring notes that I know of. And then I'll look at tablature, and I really like Songster if I'm trying to run through
Oh yeah.
something and really find out little intricate parts. I think it's as good as any tablature that you can find written. Most of the time when people write out tablature and take the time to write out tablature, it can be pretty accurate.
Mhm.
So getting songs, I have a couple of Zeppelin based tablature books. So it's really just a lot of everything. It's research, it's like writing a research paper. And I play exactly by ear. I think I play okay by ear, but I
Mhm.
also, when I'm doing Zeppelin, I want to be extremely accurate.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, it's just a combination of everything, I think.
It's funny you use that same app that I use because, as you know, I do my bass covers. I use that
Mhm.
one because it'll break it down for you, and you can play it, and you're like, okay, cool, that's how it goes. So,
Yeah, and but you want to be careful sometimes. I have students that kind of rely too much on it.
oh yeah,
Like I had a student today where we broke down what was it? Def Leppard's what song is it? I forgot what the song's called, but anyways, I taught her how to do the chord chart for it. You know, just break it down like
oh
this. You know,
definitely,
and then the parts. You know, so you can kind of memorize it a little bit better. I think it's really important to do that as well. And
yeah,
Songster doesn't really do that for you because you're only looking at a computer screen. You're only looking at this much. You know,
oh yeah,
the tablature book you can kind of write in there, but then you kind of get lost in the whole reading of the music unless you're really good at reading tablature or music. So breaking it down is super important.
I agree. I've learned that because when I went to MI, they didn't. You couldn't do tablature. They would not give you that, but you would get
Yeah,
the reading and charts, and then as you go, you kind of. So when you know all three, it really helps you out, like you're saying, and a lot of.
absolutely.
I agree with everything you're saying on that. So how does your gear differ for Dead Groove Band compared to Zepparella?
That's a great question because they're both quite different tones in each band. Um, I definitely have always loved the tone of John Paul Jones. So in Zepparella, I just try to make it as accurate as possible. And I can't bring my face out right now. But, if you do look at the Zepparella pictures, you can see that I have a 60s model jazz bass. And it sounds very, very, very similar to like the real thing. It's definitely not the real thing. I wish it was, but it sounds amazing. It kind of has more of a P bass neck. It's a little bit thicker than the standard jazz, and then it actually has I think 2 more frets than the jazz. But I put flat wounds on this bass. And I put them on probably 11 years ago, and I have not changed them. That is just a technique from stand-up bass, James Jamerson, that type of thing. And John Paul Jones was his biggest influence was James Jamerson.
Oh
And to
shit.
get that stand-up bass sounding, but electric bass, mix, I think I feel it's imperative, but maybe it's not. um,
Interesting for sure.
yeah. Well, with flat wound, you get this really softer approach the longer the strings have been on there. There's like a little dip, like the first 3 months you have them on there, and then there's like an even farther dip about a year later into it. And I think it's made me a stronger player because you do kind of have to be really strong to get those notes out. But with my amp situation, it's not very hard because it's awesome. John Paul Jones used a Bassman 300 tube amp back in the 70s, 80s when he was in Zeppelin. And so, well, the earliest of 80s, right? So, his amp is actually you can't really find them so much anymore. So what I have is Fender the Fender 800-watt Bassman amp. It's a hybrid, so it's half solid state, half tube, and it has 2 channels. And I use the second channel because I feel like I have a little bit more control. And with my setup for that, the bass isn't turned up as much. The treble and the mids I try to cut through a little bit more, especially with the bass that I use and with my flat wounds. And then I kind of do, let's see, there's frequency, just kind of keep them around 5, about mid. Try to do, I usually turn everything to about mid, and then my bass is down a little bit, my treble, my mids are up a little bit. And so that gives it still a super warm sound, but it punches through. And then my cabinet is 8x10, which is what John Paul Jones also used, Fender stack. And these are the Neo speakers. So they're the whole cabinet's only 70 pounds, which is nice.
Yeah, this is not bad at all.
The head is only 15 pounds because it's a hybrid, right? So they did a great job, I think. Fender, I'm sure all bassists everywhere that are using these new speakers and these types of hybrid heads and stuff now are in a lot of lighter solid state, because we've gone through some really heavy solid states in the past. I think we're thanking Fender and these companies that are coming out with these really nice rigs that you can carry yourself on stage.
Right.
So my original band with Dead Groove, I have, I think you can't really see them. They have drums all over. We are a house of musicians here, so we have instruments everywhere. But back here I have a full stack of Edens, so 8, 10 Edens, and my head that I was using for when I was using this setup before, I was only using 4 of the 10 speakers, and this is for a different project. And so for this project, I'm bringing a full stack. I don't know if that's just because, you know, you're supposed to get louder as you age into your musical career. I feel like I'm ready for it. So my 500 watt hard key doesn't really push it. So I'm going to buy a Fender 800 watt bassman like I do in Zepparella. Same head, but we'll have different cabinets.
Dang, sounds like you're a big Fender fan.
I actually, this one right here is a Fender Music Master.
Nice.
This is 50 years old. It's a 72, 74.
Dang. And do you use it live at all?
I do. I do every now and then I'll pull it out if I really need it. I really love the sound of this bass. It's small and it only has, you know, a single coil, but it's nice. It's very nice. So yeah, I love Fender. In fact, when I was 13, I was sitting on the floor of my room, like, I don't know, doing something, drawing, painting, or like writing lyrics or something. And I looked up at my guitar, which is my first guitar I bought for myself, with a Fender Stratocaster. And I saw the F on the Fender logo, and it was written backwards. And I told myself that I was going to start writing my F's backwards. I wrote it once and I never changed it. So they look like 7s. It's great. The Fender F's.
Definitely. Dude, Fenders are great. I have my Geddy Lee signature in my case right here. And then I have a PJ, but it's at someone else's house right now. But they're great. I mean, that's definitely a brand to get into, but they're very hard to get endorsed by. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, the other guitar I use for Dead Groove is a Fender, it's an 08 standard jazz. So it's like it's really cool. And I just got some I don't know if I have them right over here, but I just got some Diodario. They're usually right here, right? And then you want to find them, they're not. I just got some Diodario tape wounds, the black flat wounds of the tape. Nice. I was recommended the Fender nylon, but these are the these are the tape nylons or whatever. So I'm gonna maybe try to put those on the 08 and see how they sound.
Dang,
I think brightness. I think that's like they're kind of a brighter high end. I did get these Slinky. I guess they're the Early Ball. They gave me the ones that are the hybrid flat wounds. So they have a round wound inside and flat on top. And so those are supposed to be like quite flat.
It sounds like you try out like a lot of different types of strings.
I actually don't. All of my strings have been on here for so long. I read strings and then I kind of, you know, go and play them or whatever. But I don't really change them out too much because nothing really impresses me so much, you know. So I've got to figure out what's going to impress me next, you know.
What I'll have to do is when my endorsement sends me like a bunch of my other strings, because I have a bunch right now, I just need to send you a pack and you can add it to the stack of ones you can try.
Yeah, I should get a bass where I could just interchange the strings and try them out and get a real honest opinion about all of them.
For me, mine are all about the tone, and that's why I stick with who I stick with.
Yeah,
And
who are you endorsed with?
I'm with Aurora Strings.
Oh,
The guy,
awesome.
I guess the guy used to work with DR, and then he moved on to like have his own company or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I usually get. Our DR. I have a good friendship with Tony that works for DR. But even though they give me strings when I need them, and I don't need them very often, which is very nice of them, it's not really an endorsement. So we'll see how it goes in the future to
Well,
get.
you could easily get endorsed. You play enough gigs, and you're well known. The
Yeah.
way I discovered you is I went to go see Zepparella with
Oh,
my
did you?
dad. Yeah, my dad's a big Zepparella fan. He's like, "Let's go to." It wasn't the it was either the Troubadour or the Roxy, one of those. And we
Roxy.
went. Yeah, and we went with one of his chicks at the time. And he's like, "We have to go." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't do tribute bands." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "No, we're going." So we went, and I was like blown away. And that's when I barely started the bass page. I think I like found you like the next. I was like, "Dude, I gotta like watch this chick. She's bad ass on bass."
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know you went to that show. I think Stu
Yeah,
Ham was at that show too.
Stu Ham.
Yeah, he's it's funny, like I've taken so many of his lessons on what do you call it? Through Fire
Mm-hmm.
for years, right? And then I get into Zepparella and they're all friends with him. They've all he's played on their records and whatever. And then eventually we meet and are like buddies, and his girlfriend comes and takes pictures at our shows and stuff. It's like it's surreal, when you move to LA and you start
It makes sense. I mean, he was the head of the bass department when I went to MI, and he
oh,
took care of me well because like the teachers there love MI, but one of the teachers just like, "You're a chick bass player. We got to make it known you're a chick bass player." And then if I did, and it was like, but it wasn't a creepy way. Like,
yeah,
so like Stu Ham had to sit in the class, and then
yeah.
everything changed after that day. It's like, okay.
Nice. Yeah. I want to take some lessons from Stu and Bunny Brunel. I talked to Brian Beller about some bass lessons, but he was like, I don't give bass lessons, but you can come over and jam. We can talk about gear. I'm like, that's what I want to do. So
It's basically a bass lesson right there, right?
exactly. Yeah. It's all, it's all in the same thing. You really have to learn about, because when I started learning bass, I just started learning how to play the songs that I was in the band for.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the notes. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about timing. When I was out of key, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. And it's like a mountain of things that you have to learn before you can really get comfortable enough to. I feel like I could go jam with anybody at this point, but it took a lot of time to get to this point.
I agree. It takes years, man. Like, I mean, especially to like take from jamming and going into like a Zeppelin band, like that's a hard situation because really, if you're off, you're off. You could just tell.
Yeah.
That's one of those bands, you know.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I mean, I guess it's like a bittersweet story, but when I was, I think 19, 18 or 19, I had a little Toyota Camry, and they're notorious for getting broken into. And someone broke into my Toyota Camry, stole my CD player and over 300 CDs. This was my entire collection from when I was a kid, my entire
Damn.
collection. And I was so heartbroken. But I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep a few CDs in my car, and I'm going to go to the nearest pawn shop and get a CD player that I can just hide under my seat. So that's what I did. And I was in the pawn shop, and I was like, what band can I get that has a large collection that I really like all their music? Because I just don't even want to sit there and go through CDs. I just want to find, just one band. And it was Zeppelin. And I went and bought this pawn shop that I went to had every Zeppelin CD. And I was just bought all of them. And I would listen to Zeppelin for years at that point until I started collecting more CDs. I didn't really spend a lot of money on CDs, but when I would get them, I'd keep them. But I was just afraid of somebody breaking in and stealing my music again, So I was Zeppelin. And so I learned all the deep cuts, and I learned all the songs really well from that experience. So it's crazy.
And the crazy thing is, like I said, the night I saw you, I feel like you guys played mostly deep cuts compared to like, oh, like Achilles' Last Stand, Rock and Roll, Black Dog. Like you guys didn't really touch into those too hard, which is cool. But it shows that you guys aren't trying to just be a Led Zeppelin tribute band. You're trying to actually showcase everything they have. You know?
Yeah. And as you know, our band, you know, there are elements of the band when we play live that aren't exactly live, you know, they're like how they did it live. But we try to be as true as we can as 4 people are there playing the songs. And, you know, from the way that we dress and the way that we kind of want the respect that we deserve, you know, up there just trying to look, you know, sexy playing these songs. We're actually up there trying to be serious about this, as serious as you can playing someone else's songs. You know what I mean? We understand we're a tribute band, but we really love Zeppelin, all 4 of us do, you know? And there's nothing better than hearing Zeppelin done really well live. And we all like feel that, you know? And so I really like to talk to people after shows and you know, make it known that I appreciate that they come to the shows. And I can't tell you how many times that people have just been so blown away and so happy and just so appreciative of what we do, you know. Every now and then there's somebody that's like, oh, this is stupid, but they're online dumb people, you know, saying what they want to say. But we have some diehard fans, some insane diehard fans that buy us like bottles of Dom Perignon and stuff, you know what I mean? That were in those trolls positions at one point. And they were like, I don't want to go see this band. I like how you were with your dad. I want to go to tribute band. It's so stupid. A bunch of chicks, whatever. And then all of a sudden they're just these diehard fans. And I think it's because we do really try to give a good experience. We're not
and not just that, like you said, like you guys are actually respect, you know, you're not trying to be on stage like half naked in a bra. You guys are actually, because you guys dress in all white.
We dress in all white, yeah. There's actually a reason for that. Back when they first started the band, because it's Zepparella, right? So the drummer is Clementine. She's the one that started the band, and she basically took Zeppelin and Barbarella. If you've ever seen Barbarella, it's these like sexy aliens, you know. And I mean, not that she just wanted to be like a beautiful representation of feminine energy playing Zeppelin. And so when they were dressing similar to like 70s kind of garb and whatever, but then at one point they said, let's dress in all white and project Barbarella onto us and a screen in the back, and we'll play the set according to the movie. And so she put it all together, and they played I guess an hour and a half or however long the movie is from start to finish, this whole set that went with the movie.
Damn.
And instead, nobody talked about that. All they talked about was the fact that everyone was wearing white. So she said, okay, this will just continue to wear white. And so that's where the whole white thing came in. And I like that because it kind of sets us apart from something else, you know, from the other Zeppelin tributes. So there are a lot of Zeppelin tributes. Zeppelin has been around for almost 18 years.
Dang.
Yeah. So, and I saw them play in Dallas when I lived in Dallas before I even started playing bass.
Dang.
And I was impressed. I thought they were awesome. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, a chick band out here from California, you know, because I didn't know a tribute band actually, like coming out from California. I didn't know that a lot of tribute bands did that. So they were already impressive back then, just from traveling and trying to make it.
And how did you join the band?
I joined the band in 2018. I had just put out a record, my kind of debut solo record called Mokita. And I actually covered When the Levee Breaks, because I am a huge Zeppelin fan already. And Gretchen was looking, they were looking for a new bass player The old bass player was stepping down. This was right after the old singer stepped down as well. So they were changing half their lineup, which they had already done that like 6 years previous. So these two girls were leaving, and so they needed another lineup. So the original singer came back. I was the one that they were looking for, and they had tried a couple girls that lived in LA and lived in San Francisco, or were talking to them. And they had one, but she just couldn't commit or anything. So Gretchen kind of reached out to some people, and one person she reached out to was Tracy Guns, and we all of us, I've known him since like 2009. Gretchen's known him for a long time too, so we're all like, you know, mutual friends or whatever. And so he just said, I've got the perfect person for you. Don't look at anybody else. This is it. You know, it's like super vouched for me. It was just so sweet of him. And so I was a hairdresser in Dallas for 20 years, and I was doing music and hair. So all day hair, all night music. And I had just put out my record, so I'm, you know, playing music all over, or playing my own shows all over Dallas and stuff. And anyways, at night I was sweeping up hair, and I get a text from Tracy, and he says, "Hey, do you want to be in Zepparella?" And when Tracy says something, it's usually no bullshit, like he's actually working on something or whatever. And I was like, hell yeah. And then I sat down and I went, oh my God, I'm going to be in Zepparella. And so like a week later, I went out for audition, played Lemon Song, Whole Lot of Love, and Trampled Underfoot for several different reasons. But then they told me that they wanted me to come back out for like a week for rehearsals, and then they would do their first run in Arizona. And then the next weekend, or next time we went out, was in Dallas, which was my hometown where I lived. So it was really crazy. It was a real whirlwind for that first couple of months, you know. But they told me that they would have me for like a month and see how it goes. But after the first show, she asked me the next day to join. So I guess it worked out.
And you said that you picked those one of the songs for a reason. So you got to pick what songs you auditioned with?
No, they picked them. Okay. So the 3 songs they picked, so Whole Lot of Love has a big jam session in the middle of it. It's what we end, they always end the session, or the whole set with, besides the encore. And it's just freestyle, which is kind of what Zeppelin used to do as well. So they wanted to see how I could jam. Trampled Underfoot had a very distinct groove that was done on the organ. So they wanted to see how I translated it to bass, which was a big key in this whole thing too. And then the hardest song to play on bass, which is the Lemon Song.
Yeah. Dang.
And so I did pretty good. So.
Dang. Well, that's cool. I mean, and with them having like an extensive catalog, how do you guys go about picking the set list?
So it's kind of a revolving door of certain songs, but we have, you know, what we call nuggets, you know, that are like, you can't really get away from playing them. Like Whole Lot of Love, Cashmere. Let's see, what was like The Ocean, Moby Dick. Bring It On Home, because Anna has a big harmonica solo right before. I have 2 different songs I can play. I can do solos in, so we try to keep one of those in there. And then we all know, I'm sure between all of us, like we could play 3 to 4 hours of Zeppelin, and we only typically have to play an hour and a half to 2 hours of Zeppelin. So, but that's not saying much, because Zeppelin songs are like 10 minutes long. So we only get to like 14 songs the whole night, you know, for 2 hours usually.
And it's like non-stop either too. So that's
non-stop. Yeah. Well, we've put some, so we've lately, like the last year or so, we've been leaving the stage for certain people's solos. Like we've always left for Moby Dick, you know, let Clem have her time, and then we leave now for Anna's harmonica solo. So those are usually somewhere in the middle of the set. So I get these 2 little tiny breaks. And then after that second one, I'm like, oh my God, we're almost done. It goes by so quick now. It's crazy.
But that's good though. Like it shouldn't feel like it's dragging on for you at all. That's awesome.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
Do you have a favorite like Zeppelin song you like to play live?
Well, of course, I love playing the Lemon song because it's a challenge, and I'm still working on it. You know, I don't think anybody will ever master that song. I mean, if there is somebody there out there, kudos to them. But it's like, I mean, it's blues. It's all blues. But he went in there, I think, to take Jake, you know, and it was done. So he was just ad-libbing the whole time. Yeah. And so when you're trying to learn ad-lib from somebody else, it's hard.
It's true. Like, well, like I take that from like Neil Peart, where like I think they were talking about it was either La Villa Strangiato or was it Tom Sawyer or something. It was one of those or YYZ where they're always they never get it constantly down. It's like how you're talking about the Lemon song where it's you're always learning it. You're always gonna be learning it. It's never gonna be fully down.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, because when I'm on stage, I feel a little free to make up my own. Yeah. I feel a little, you know, like it probably how he did on stage too. I don't think you did it the same way every time, you know. So that's cool. That's okay, you know. Oh yeah. like songs today. I mean, not all songs, but a lot of rock songs today are so exact. You know, there's not a lot of room for movement deviation in there, but for Zeppelin there is, because it was orchestrated that way, and that's a lot of it is because of the bass and the bass lines. I do like playing Immigrant Song, of course, because it's so awesome when the bass comes in, you know, and when you hear it live and on stage, and especially if you have like bass monitors right underneath you or subs underneath you, it's like, you know, it's so awesome. And then of course a whole lot of love because I get to solo in the middle of it. I love to solo. I love to jam. I love to solo. So anything that I can just do that in is awesome for me.
Makes sense. While we're talking about set lists and favorite songs, with you being with your new band, Dead Groove Band, how do you guys go about picking the set list with your guys' new record?
So we've had so the record came out in March. We've had 3 shows. Yeah, 3 shows. 1 in Lima, Peru, 1 in San Francisco, and 1 in LA. And I'm sorry, not LA. San Diego. Yeah. And and they were actually all well, the one in Lima was a lot different than the ones here, because the ones in Lima, we had just started writing the record or finishing the record, right? So the easier songs are what we focused on, because we hadn't even gone into the studio to record the record. We had just been sending demos back and forth and practicing on our own. So we wanted the low-hanging fruit, kind of. So we went to the studio for a few days and figured out what the low-hanging fruit was for 30 minutes. And then those are the songs that we played. And then for the next session, we didn't have our original guitar player. We ended up hiring Jeff Young. He was in Megadeth the early years, and the newly formed Kings of Thrash, and he's known as a kind of flamenco style guitar player as well. So we picked more like rock and roll, heavier, hard rock songs, because he's kind of a metal player, and so I think that would fit a little bit better with his style. So you kind of have to think about that too if you have subs. What's gonna, I mean, you want them to play exactly how the record is, but sometimes you have to realize, you just kind of have to calibrate it the right way. So, but that's kind of how those were just the faster songs, the ones that hit a little harder.
That makes sense. With your guitar player being in Peru, I read that. Is that like why you guys went out there and played there, just because he's there, and like you guys probably have a following a little bit over there?
In a way, Caesar and Fred's the drummer, they are from Peru, and they had a band there. The guitar player's still in. It's called Mauser, and it's a hard rock band, and they do a lot of touring and a lot of shows down there. They even have tribute bands that it's just them, and they do like Alice in Chains and Pantera and stuff. Or no, that's a different band. Anyways, there's a lot of like tribute band scenes down there too. Anyway, so we were going down there to record the record. So we decided we wanted to do a show while we were there. Because there was a big show that was happening. It was a complete tribute show, but we were opening the show. And so we got to play for their families and stuff, and that was really cool. And just kind of break the ice as a band, because you know, I haven't really played at all with Caesar, but Fred and Caesar are pretty close in playing, and Fred and I are pretty close in playing. So we kind of had to like seal the deal with that show and just kind of get out there and do it. In fact, the new the new video that we just posted, which is Bat Friend, we recorded in the studio right before we did that. I don't know if it was before or after, but we were in that studio quite a bit. I think it was right before we did that show. So we were just kind of gelling and getting used to playing with each other.
And can you tell like us how like Dead Groove Band started?
Yeah, so Fred and I are a couple. We've been together since the weekend of the pandemic, basically. We met the night before everything shut down.
Sounds very romantic.
Yeah. So eventually he asked me on a date to come and jam with him. And so our jam session lasted like 4 hours, and it was awesome. Like we just really connected well musically. And so eventually we ended up moving in together in Long Beach. And we weren't sure when the pandemic would be over and all that, but we decided that we would start writing some original stuff. And he was talking to Caesar. Caesar was getting tired of playing. He was actually going to stop playing. He didn't want to do these tribute bands anymore. He didn't really want to do his original thing. He was just kind of tired of things. And so Fred was like, well, let's just see what we can do. You know, send us. I had a song which was Maverick. I'd just written that right when I moved here from Dallas to San Diego. Actually, I live in LA now, or we live in Long Beach now. But when I moved from Dallas to San Diego, I wrote a song called Maverick, and it was an acoustic kind of blues song. And so I sent that to him, and we made it kind of a rock song. And it worked out really well. So then the next song we did was Book of the Dead. And that was Caesar had come up with those riffs, and Caesar and Fred came up with the structure and everything. And then I came up with the lyrics and melody, and we did the demos. And those two songs were really good. So we decided that those two, we would try to go to Peru for the holidays, because that's where Fred's family still is. And while we were there, we would record those two songs. So we recorded the songs, and then we got them done, and we did a lyric video and 2 music videos to them. And so that's how it started. And we put those out, and everybody really enjoyed them, and we felt like we could work really well together. So, but yeah, and then we got signed, and went back to record the records. But that's kind of how it started.
And how did you guys like get signed? Like, did they hear your guys' new music and they're like, oh, cool, like we would love to have you on our label? Or did you get like a bunch of offers or anything like that?
Well, as a really new band, we were just trying to put our music out there. And Rock Avenue Records was doing a video deal with Bullet Boys. And Fred is also drummer for Bullet Boys. And so they had heard that we had bands, and they were excited about, really excited about Zepparella, like being a bass player or whatever. And then, they really loved Fred's drumming and whatnot. And they found out that we had a band together, and they heard the 2 songs, and we just kind of asked them like what they could do for us and whatever. And so we ended up signing a distribution and publishing deal with them for a couple of years, just to they kind of help springboard you into a bigger label and stuff. So we're just kind of in the middle of that at this point. But it was just kind of meeting the right people at the right time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It happens like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you live in LA and you're in the LA scene, it's really easy to meet, musical people.
Especially with you doing like gigs all the time and like being you do the ultimate jam night all the time. You do all
Yeah.
of those things. So like, you meet a lot of people all the time. That's
Oh,
what I tell people. It's easy to know everyone if you live in LA because a lot of people ask me that. It's easy to meet people.
yeah. I have a really good friend who was a huge tour manager for many years, and when I was looking to move to LA before, this was before I had started my solo project, put a record out there.
Mhm.
Um, I was still a big fish in a little pond in Dallas.
Mhm.
I was one of the only female bass players. I stood out. I was in bands that were notable. I had my own band that was, a really great band in Dallas before. I was doing a lot of gigs, and I wanted to move to LA. He said, "Don't do it now because you're going to be a small fish in a big pond over there." So that's when I got the idea that I needed to go ahead and try and get some content,
Mhm.
get some songs together, release the record, start working on my acoustic stuff, really get a foundation for myself for when I'm out there. And as I was doing that, I ended up getting in Zepparella. So I do think that that's kind of how hard work snowballs into something bigger.
Well, I agree all the way. That was a smart move anyways because like a lot of people do. They go to MI and they think they're going to become like this next like I think Sinister Gates went there. They think they're going to become him just going there. You'll make contacts, but you have to have something to give these people. You know how it works.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Another friend of mine who's big in the industry, he said, it's about being in the right place at the right time, but also being
Mhm.
ready.
Yes.
You really have to be ready. He's around all kinds of musicians all the time, but if somebody asked him, "Can you play guitar in my band?" He's not ready. You know, so
Yeah.
it's the same concept. If you're trying to be in the scene and you're trying to meet people and you finally meet somebody that needs what you can give, but then you're not ready, they're not going to choose you. You want to, but you're not ready. So
Another thing that it's all about a lot of times these bands like to go with people they know. They know who they can trust. They don't want an outsider.
absolutely, yeah. I got hit up today to do a one-off gig that pays extremely well.
Mhm.
Um, but I can't make the rehearsals. I can
Mhm.
make the show, I can't make the rehearsals. So it's like if if and this person that's trying to give me the gig is a huge bass player.
Mhm.
And so that's the cool thing is that I'm in the right spot, the right times. I am ready,
Mhm.
and maybe I can't make it. I don't know, but I finally gotten to that point, where I'm being seen, and people are like,
Mhm.
okay, can you do this gig? Can you do this gig? And you also, you want to make sure you're not just taking any gig because then you're known as the $100 gigger, and
Right.
that doesn't count for anything. So you have to have a very professional hat on when you go play these like ultimate night jam.
Mhm.
I can't just half-ass it up there. I really have to give it everything. I have to give it performance. I have to know the songs. I have to know the songs well enough if something goes wrong.
Oh,
I have to know the song well enough if I can't hear myself. That happened the other day. I was trying to do an intro with a bass and drum and bass line. Couldn't hear myself at all, but I just had to feel my way through it. And that stuff will happen.
oh yeah.
So it's a really steep slope, but if you take it seriously, then you'll get there.
Oh, a lot of people give me shit that I'm not in a band. I'm not gonna just take some band that like for me, I look at it as what do you have to offer me? I've worked my ass off. I have my contacts. I interview. I can get you interviews. I can have you played on the radio. I have endorsements, and a lot of people are like, yeah, but y- someone with 100 followers, they're not going to give you the same thing that you can give them, and that's how I see it as like you saying, don't be the person that just joins any band. You should be
Yeah.
the one. You should think about it and think
Mhm.
about mutual opportunities. That's how I look at everything. And
Absolutely. I think there's a difference though in playing with anyone. Like I will give good the advice of make sure you play with as many people as
oh yeah,
possible, but you don't have to join any band just
oh I
because
agree.
they need a guitar player, bass player, whatever. But go jam with people. Go to
Oh, okay.
jams. Learn your 145. Learn how to speak national numbers. Learn your major scale. Learn enough to where you can hold on, basically, and go to those jams and find a little dive bar that has a little blues jam. Some of those are the best jams, by the way. Um, you know. Uh, Find people who are better than you musically and go jam with them,
I
or
agree.
you know, do that, but don't just join any band just because they can give you $100 and a meal.
No, I agree totally with you on that one. So your record's been out for like a few months now. How has like the followers' reaction been since they heard the whole entire thing compared to the singles?
It's been great. I mean, it's not there yet because we worked on the whole single for almost a year before we put the record out. The two
Mm-hmm.
singles were out quite a long time before we could go back to Peru and do them. And so when we released the record, we had a couple of hiccups with. We had a new video coming out, and the person who was editing it just dropped off the face of the earth. So yeah, I'm learning in LA. There's definitely some people who'll say they'll do something, they don't do it. So we're going to be we took it in matters in our own hands, and we
Mm-hmm.
started releasing our own videos again. So
Nice.
we'll definitely have more of those out. But we've been pushing that on social media a lot, the videos, and we're getting a huge response. We have people from we had a whole team from Brazil looking to bring us down to Brazil. It logistically we couldn't do it, but we're in Lima in Peru. It's taking off quite a bit. We definitely have it's nice to see the full album and see all the numbers and see where people are gravitating to,
Mm-hmm.
because you can push one song at a time. It costs money to push a song, and so we have Ghost being pushed on the East Coast radio circuit right now, but we don't see the numbers coming through on the other side. So but it takes a while. It takes about 3 months to see what's going on. You can see yourself charting apparently
Yeah.
on hard rock charts for like 120 or something. I don't know. But at this point, it's always with a new band. Even though we're all well known, ourselves, it's kind of like a super group, I guess, because we're known from other bands and we've come together to build this band. So we definitely have our own people, that are
Yeah.
following us, but we're getting a lot of new followers. We're all very good at social media and stuff. Fred and I, we take a lot of things, or we do a lot of behind the scenes work.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a booking agent, we do have a label, but there's a lot of other things that have to get done as well.
Oh yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of our own PR, a lot of our own booking, a lot of our own marketing and things like that. So it's not just like you get signed and then they take care of
Yeah.
everything. In some larger labels, yeah, that might be true, but in these smaller, kind of boutique labels and newer bands, you really have to hit the ground running.
Oh, I agree. And the thing is, it's kind of better to do your own work because at the same time, you're putting out more promotion than a lot of these labels are because they have higher priorities all the time, especially being a newer band. So with you doing it yourself, it's going to help you at the end of the day, and it's going to help you with other bands you do too if you end up wanting to do this all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. And I made the mistake with my first record not to push it as much as I should have.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot of money to push a record. So I'm probably a little bit more financially stable now and have a partner in crime too, so that helps a lot. But really, it's about keeping yourself present. Giving yourself really good PR. Your person is yourself is the best PR that you have. You really have to push yourself and push your brand out there yourself. and it's easy to do these days, which is great.
Yeah.
It's I come from the era where we didn't grow up. I'm probably dating myself. Sorry, but I had a computer. We didn't have the internet until I was in middle school, high school. We didn't have all this stuff. I knew Lars was talking about how bad Napster was for the industry. I knew that was going to happen. I knew how it was going to work out, and it is true. Like, we don't have the big rock stars anymore unless you're streaming millions and millions and millions of streams. Which, I mean, I don't know. There's good and bad, I think, in everything. I think I don't have too much of a problem with how we're progressing. I think it's great to progress and to get better. I think the AI stuff kind of scares the crap out of me sometimes, but we're actually starting to use AI in some of our stuff too. Like this screen right here, this backdrop, the cover art, some of that's AI.
Nice.
Yeah. So Fred works for Cleopatra Records, and so he does jobs for them, like lots and lots of different album artwork and stuff. And so all of this is his art. And so he does his own stuff. I mean, it took him a really long time to do this, putting the satellite and positioning everything. But that's how art and how everything's going. It's going that way. So get ready.
Well, yeah, someone was telling me recently that a lot of musicians are really scared of AI, and I get it, but like it's about adapting,
It's about adapting and progressing, but it's also the fact that AI isn't perfect either. Yeah. It's not perfect. It might get there pretty soon, but if you look at like any AI where they haven't fixed anything on it, there's something that will tell you, oh, that's totally AI, Yeah. I guess it's super scary if you're really gullible and you can't decipher, those little hints, but there are a lot of people that can't, so it is kind of scary. I feel like AI should come with a warning, though. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get to that point where we're mimicking people's voices and writing styles. I think it should come with a label.
It makes sense. Eventually all this happens anyway. Like, who would have thought back in the day when you're buying vinyls that eventually we're just going to stream everything? We don't even really need. I collect them, but we don't really need vinyls. I can't play it in my car.
People are really gravitating back towards vinyl because it's now a piece of artwork.
I love it.
And that's great. People are buying vinyl. Everybody's asking. Yeah, most people are asking when our record's going to come out on vinyl. Of course, it's a lot more expensive, and then there's a difference between cut vinyl and pressed vinyl, and so you get into a whole big thing with that. And CDs are easier, streaming's much easier. It's hard to make money off of streaming. CDs make a little bit of money. Vinyls make a little bit more money. Clothing makes some money. It's all a very long process of trying to adapt to the new ways of making money through music.
But it's also getting harder because when you play these shows and these venues want these cuts, it's like, dude, this came out of your pocket, especially with you being a newer band. All this is coming out of your pocket. It's not really coming out of the label's pocket. It's coming out of your pocket, and then they want to cut. It's like, really? This is what I made for the night, dude.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're booking new bands. You have a lot of club owners that don't know anything about the music industry. Thankfully, some of them do, but a lot of them don't. A lot of the managers are bar managers that have been hired to take care of bands. Then there's people who are actually hired for the job that are in bands, that know bands, that want to make it really, really great for the bands and productive so that they can come back. But at the end of the day, the managers and the owners are looking at numbers. And if you don't do enough of your own PR and advertising, then you're not going to get anybody to come to your shows. Even in that, you really have to have a very good rapport with whatever city that you're going to. The good thing about being in, like me being in Zepparella, Fred being in Kings of Thrash and Bullet Boys and whatever it is, we're touring all over the country. So we do make, like, where are you at?
I'm in Chino.
Where?
I live in Chino. It's in California.
Okay, so you're in California. So we go up there and we make fans, we make connections, we make all this stuff. So then you start following us and you see that we have original bands. And so with the girls that I work with in Zepparella, they all have fans from Zepparella that come to their other shows too. So it's a lot of just keeping that rapport open with people all over the place. And if you're a new band and you don't have that, then there are very easy ways to do that. Social media is the biggest one.
I agree. I agree with you all the way with that. A lot of people just don't understand how to, do all that, and that's where it gets hard.
It's scary too.
How can you be a musician if you don't know how to do self-promotion? That's how it gets.
Like I said, it's a big mountain of stuff you have to learn to be a successful musician.
I agree. Well, I wanted to bring up, so you guys did 10 tracks on this newest record. Did any songs not make it on the record, or did you guys just take all of them and put them on there?
We actually put all of them on there. It's funny because we had the idea of making, we may have had like one or two riffs that didn't make it or something, but we worked on these songs extensively, the same way that we were talking, Fred and Caesar did the music, right? And then I would come in and write the lyrics and the melodies, and then we would, obviously things change, as you're playing them or demoing them, they change. So it really worked well enough that we thought every song was good, we didn't find anything that was like boring to play or boring to sing or boring to perform. We felt like they were all pretty heavy and good and represented what we wanted. So it came out how it came out.
Yeah, that's always good. That's a great feeling to have that as a band. You don't always get that kind of chemistry,
Yeah.
So there's that. With the track order, did you guys have like a few ways you wanted it, or did you guys how'd you guys go about that?
Yeah. Well, this track order was I think the first one that Fred made. Fred kind of wanted to have it as like a journey. So every song has like a little bit of something else. Like after, like in the end of Maverick, the bridge, I mentioned the devil, and then the next song is the devil, so there's a couple of those things. And then I think after that is Bad Friend, represent the devil, so like and Satellite King is the opening track, and we have a satellite on our the cover right there at the top. Yeah. And it's a metaphor for someone wanting to get fed up with the world and wanting to just shoot the fuck out of here into outer space. So yeah, right. And the next one is about my favorite car, which is a '69 Stingray. And so you're now in the Stingray, like riding away from, So yeah, it's a little bit of a story, kind of inside story there, but yeah, they kind of all line up that way. And then Into Infinity is the closing track, which we've gotten a lot of really good reviews on that one. I think it's the most different from the rest of the songs, and it has more harmonies and melodies in it. And actually, Fred wrote the lyrics for it.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's really cool to have a drummer write lyrics for the band. Rush did that, and bands that did that. But he is not a writer. He's not a poet. He's not a songwriter or anything. So he's also not from here. So, but when we were writing, I wrote a list of song, not titles, but like subjects. And because we're a couple, it's kind of hard to write about love or write about a dude or a chick or whatever. So we try to keep it to like more interesting things. I feel, like cars.
Hey, cars are interesting. So
cars are awesome. They're rock and roll. So the one of the subjects came up is the infinite unknown, right? Like what is out there with the infinite? Like if you just keep going and going and going, what about inside your mind? It's the same way, because we're kind of a reflection of what's out there, right? And so he wrote out and he wrote he wrote a poem basically. And so I sat on it for a while because I some of it didn't make sense to me, and some of it, and a lot of it did, and I was trying to figure out what he really wanted from that. So we sat down and I asked him a bunch of questions. We just kind of went through the whole thing. It became this really beautiful representation about like, what are we, why are we here, where are we going, how far is it, you know, just this really cool, wondrous energy about this song. And I think it came out really well. And so that's like, it's like you start as this, you know, thing wanting to get away from all these problems, and then you see all these problems and all these songs, you know, and all these different things, and then all of a sudden you're gone. You know, how far do we go? It's kind of cool. It's not a concept record, but it came together really nice and blends in really well.
It sounds like, but the way you make it sound, I was gonna just ask her, no, is it a concept record? Because it sounds like it goes together like that. Like that's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, the concepts were really just about, you know, everyday struggles. I don't really like to write about love and loss and things, because I feel like anybody can kind of write a love song.
Well, everyone does, anyways, you know.
Yeah, so I like to challenge myself. You know, the Book of the Dead is about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and it's about my take on how stupid it is, because like you had to basically save up your entire life to send, your whole family had to save up their entire life to send one person into the afterlife with you know, all the riches and the goodness of the world. And I'm like, how stupid is that, you know?
Pretty much.
So my opening lines is give it up for the pyramid in the sky, the Book of Dead that controls our gods. You know, it's kind of like sarcastically like, it's fun.
Oh, well, it seems like you like did like a lot of like research and like did a lot of stuff. How long did it take you to write these songs?
I'm drawing a blank for some reason, but like, I mean, we worked on them. Let's see, came out this year. We worked on them all last year. I mean, maybe last year we put out the songs in March, and now it's May, so about a year, 10 months to get them, you know, where we wanted them, and then a couple months to like record and, you know, perfect them and record them.
And then from you writing most of the lyrics, is there any songs or lyrics that you sing that mean anything to you?
Oh yeah, they all definitely mean stuff to me. Like Maverick is about, so I'm from Dallas. I was born in Oklahoma. I basically lived in the South all my life. I've traveled the world. I've been to over 60 countries. I've done a lot of traveling, but I've always gone back there. And my idea of moving out to California was, you know, it's not supposed to be that hard, but for most people, it's really hard. Some people don't even leave the state. Some people don't even leave their state, or even their city, you know? So I felt like being Maverick was, you know, leaving stuff behind and just going for it. And so that's why I wrote that song. So that one means a lot to me. Satellite King and Book of the Dead were both written because Fred wanted me to write a song. Fred gave me those ideas. Satellite King is about a satellite that doesn't like Earth anymore and wants to shoot out in outer space, kind of a metaphor for people who are just like, I'm just done with this planet. Book of the Dead is about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. We were just really into the Egyptian Book of the Dead and all this history stuff at one point. You know, we're watching all these like ancient aliens and all that. And so I asked them, like, what do you think this song should be about? Because the riff was real heavy, and I was like, I'm not really sure, you know, very deep purple, you know. And he goes, well, write about the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And I wrote it in 30 minutes. It was cool. It was really cool. Ghost is about, so Ghost is kind of like a literal ghost. Like the whole story I'm trying to portray is a literal ghost that you've conjured up, and it won't leave you alone. Like it's seriously haunting you, you know, like Ouija board kind of stuff. But also, do you know, like if you have a thought in your head that just won't go away, no matter how long you keep trying to not think about, or a song, you know, it's kind of about that concept too. Like it's something haunting you in your brain. You can't get it out of your brain, and you have to just leave you the fuck alone.
That's a pretty decent concept, man.
Yeah. And then the devil is about the devil, you know, about, well, I don't believe in religion, so therefore I don't believe in heaven and hell and the God and the devil and whatever. But obviously it's a metaphor for evil. And, you know, I scream out idle hands at the end of it, because idle hands are the devil's playground. And, you know, it basically just says, you know, when you fuck with those types of, you know, bad energy, the devil's going to get a hold of your mouth. It's got a hold of your tongue. It's got a hold of your eyes. And it can see with your eyes, and it's got a hold of your hands. And so that's just basically about the evil in the world. If you mess with it, then it's going to get a hold of you. And then Bad Friend is about like twin flames that just eventually go out. We've been there.
Yeah.
I have my old friend, and then like a year later, you hate each other.
It happens, man.
It's like, wow, how did that happen? And then Silver Spoon is like the silver spoon theory. You know, if you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you're born with money. You're, but you don't have those qualities to become like a real honest human being with integrity. And you know, it's just having a silver spoon in your mouth. I think we talked Into Infinity, and there's got to be like one more on there, right? Oh, Play Your Hand. Play Your Hand. I kind of wanted to do a card metaphor, you know, for karma. It was basically about karma.
Dang, you like dug deep. That's what it seems like. You like you actually made it like, like I'm kind of like you know, I'm speechless. I wasn't expecting for like you dug deep and brought a lot of different topics to a record, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was meant to be that way. And I think that when you try to reach outside of the box, you end up digging deeper, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so the next record will probably be the same. You know, I'll try. It's going to be challenging because I used some really good ones in this record, you know. But, you know, I think that it's just helping me become a better writer and helping me become a better lyricist and poet.
Oh, yeah. And then with you being the singer, do you do any vocal warm-ups or anything before recording or playing live?
Yeah. So the coolest thing that I've been gifted is Anna Christina's work ethic on her voice. And Anna Christina is the singer in Zepparella. She is the most insane vocal representative of like being on it, you know. Like I don't know how to explain it, but she's just great. She is super precautious about her voice. She's very I mean, it's her instrument, right? So my vocal workouts are pretty much every single day, if not 5, 6 times a week. I use do you know who Cheryl Porter vocal coaches?
I actually, this is the first time I've never heard of her. I've heard of like Melissa Cross and like a few others.
Cheryl Porter is amazing. She uses boxing gloves. She really gets into it, and her vocal warm-up, her vocal workouts are 10 minutes long, and they are, first off, no bullshit, and they're also very fun. You know, they're not just that. It's like you're singing a phrase and you're doing all this stuff, and she's making you like work out while you do it, because we all know that if you can't sing while you're walking and you're performing, you're not going to make it as a singer, especially in a rock band. Oh, yeah. So I try to do these on my way to work, because or like when I teach, I try to do them if you know, if nobody's around, because vocal warm-ups are also very annoying to other people. So, but I also have Fred doing them now too, because he's doing harmonies with us in this original project. So that's the thing I do on a daily basis. The things that I do for shows is stay super hydrated. I try not to talk too much in between shows. So as much vocal rest as I can. I love throat coat tea right before I go on. Always have water while I'm on stage. Throat coat spray is also really good. And then before the show, I try to go about an hour before the show and do the vocal workout, and then sing a few parts of songs that I know that are going to be a little challenging, just to get things flowing and worked out. I do use a Telefunken, I think it's an M80 mic. And so those are very good directional. You kind of have to be very, very in front of it. So that's the only part about playing the bass and singing, is I have to be very cognizant of like where that vocal mic is. So, but when I'm right on it, it picks up my voice beautifully. So that's another important thing, is being able to hear yourself on stage. I don't use in-ears. A lot of vocalists end up hating their in-ears anyways. I also don't really believe the whole in-ear hype, to be honest. Unfortunately, it'll probably cut me from some gigs in the future with gigantic pop artists, because that's all they use. But
hey, that's their loss, you know?
Well, if I'm just playing bass and I'm not having to sing, it's a different story. But the problem is when you're playing bass and you're trying to sing, if those in-ears pop out and then you can't hear yourself, like you're relying on the house, it's really hard. So what I do is I just set up myself as a bassist singer, and I use tissue in my ears. You know, it's super old school, but it cuts out all of the heavy or the really high highs. And then I can hear everything else, and I can also hear my voice without it being a little bit off pitch. So that's my secret.
Dang. You'd be here to hear your secret. Dang, dude, those are some crazy. I'm guessing those are like your show rituals, because I was gonna ask that. That's what I'm guessing. That's your every show ritual right there.
Yeah, I try to be calm. I don't try to be out there talking to too many people. If I know people are coming to the show, I might go out there and thank them, but I try to stay back and just keep myself rested and hydrated. And the tea is super, super important. It has slippery elm in it, and slippery elm does kind of what it says. Like it makes everything very, not dry and very slippery back there, I guess. So you're not like getting dry mouth where you're trying to sing, and but always have
water. With you being in Zepparella and you've toured a lot of places, do you have any like rituals you have with them, or anything you request for your tour rider or anything like that?
So the only problem with my touring is the fact that or it's not always a problem, but sometimes the problem is and my guitar player in Zepparella and also Fred, we're all vegan. So that's hard sometimes when you're in certain places to find, not so much anymore, like there's always like one or two options, but to find places that have good vegan food so you can keep yourself, well fed on tours and stuff. So I've been requesting lately hummus and chips, just so that I have something, and then I do like soda water. I have a little bit of soda water sometimes. We have lemons, which are really good for, teas and stuff. That actually is the tour secret. If you're having a deodorant problem on tour, which some of us do because we forget it, or whatever, you can rub lemon on your armpits and it's like deodorant. So sometimes use it for that. I have so many travel tips. I should be on a travel show, to be honest.
You should. I mean, like a lot of musicians, especially women, should put out like, because we have to tour differently than a lot of guys. Like we have different needs. So like a lot of women should share their secrets, because like there's gonna be chicks that go on their first tour and they're gonna struggle the whole way through when they could be like, oh cool, I could put lemon, like if I don't have any like
Well, I will tell you, like being a girl on tour, or even just being a girl band on tour, is a lot different than being with dudes or a dude on tour. Because when we have to change, it's not like we can just drop down to our underwear in front of anybody, like dudes always do. Like we can't take our shirt off if there's people in the dressing room. And sometimes the venues, like we did not too long ago, where we were in the office because they don't have a green room, and
Dang.
people are coming in and out of there. You know what I mean? So sometimes that happens. No matter if you're a really big artist, sometimes you go to these little shithole places to play because they're paying you what you ask them to.
Yeah.
So you really have to, as a female, you have to like really put your ducks in a row and advance on every show.
I bet. I was laughing earlier because every time I ask that tour writer question, every band says hummus. It's like the
Mm,
thing. Every band, and like I was talking to the dude from Unearth, and he's like, "Well, it could sit out for long periods of time, and we don't have to worry about it." That's what.
that, and it's filling and it's not too filling. And my favorite snack anyways is red pepper hummus with blue potato or blue corn chips. I don't know why, but that combination is just like my favorite thing. And I can eat that for any meal too. So I figure like ask for on the rider and enough people give it to me, I don't even have to buy food for the whole tour.
There you go. You
If
think
I,
you're
if I have to go, if I have to go to a place that doesn't have any vegan options, I know I have hummus and chips, so I'm fine.
hey, you're being smart here. You know, you know what you got to do. Like,
Yeah.
so you've toured a lot. Do you have a favorite city or venue you enjoy playing?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's so hard to say. You know, some places we play that are tiny have like the best energy. You know what I mean? And some places we play where they're huge have the worst energy. So it's really about the fans, you know, about how big the fans are and how excited the fans are to see us. Like we played this little tiny restaurant because they paid us what we wanted, and we and every single person in that place was just hurrah for us, you know. And there was like 200 people, but they were just so excited. Um, and then like Great American Music Hall is usually pretty good in San Francisco. It's this gorgeous building. It's just a historic building in downtown San Francisco. Unfortunately, getting there is really hard because San Francisco has just turned into a armpit of the U.S. Yeah, they really, really need to take a big, long, hard look in the mirror up there. It's really sad. It's so sad. I heard the other day there's 38,000 homeless people up there.
Dang,
And
dude.
we need to help them. Like
Yeah.
something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. These people don't deserve to
Oh, I
just
agree.
swept away. So, anyways, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart going up there. But the American Music Hall is a 600-person venue, and it has this the scaffolding on the side where in the balconies, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous venue. Sound is great. Some guys are always great. That also makes a really good show.
Mhm.
Gotta have that fifth member be a really good fifth member. Um, so that, of course, I want to get back to Texas and play Trees because that's my, hometown. That's my hometown venue. So those are really great. We just played really good. We're playing in Nashville on the 1st of June, but we just played in somewhere right close to that, and we had never been to that place before. It was our debut show there, and that was amazing. So sometimes we go to these places we've never been to, and it sells out. The people are great. They just want to hear more. 2 hours goes by like that. The sound guys are on it. The management's great. We've got what we need in the dressing room. We've got privacy. Sometimes it just works out beautifully.
Hey, that's always good. And with you playing all these shows, do you have like one that's the most memorable to you?
Well, I think probably the first time we played Trees in Dallas, which was like I'd just been in the band for about a month, and I just had my whole family there, a lot of friends that were just so proud to see me touring, breaking out of Dallas and touring. I mean, I still live there, but breaking out as a touring artist from Dallas. Not very many people in that scene have really done that, So that was definitely extremely memorable for me because when they were introducing me, people were telling me that my whole family were up on the balcony just bawling their eyes out, cheering me on. So that was really, very, very special to me. And then I think a year later, we played at Great American Music Hall. It was my birthday. And it was the first time I heard 600 people sing happy birthday to me. And it was just like it was just so memorable. So it was really cool.
That's pretty cool. Those are sweet moments actually. Like those are awesome.
Yeah.
With you being in Zepparella, Dead Groove Band, and also doing like the ultimate jams, how do you juggle all that?
They're just all on different days. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have the same booking agent in both band, the original band and Zepparella. So the cool thing is that like whenever I am working on a tour for Dead Groove, the same booking agent knows about Zepparella, right? So keeping the weekend separated. One tip I can give bands that have busy musicians in them is just dedicate 2 weekends a month. You know, you'll make enough money, you'll tour enough places, and everybody will be able to give you two weekends a month. I see established bands who are making tons of money in their shows, but they can't get it together with booking. Like, oh, I can't play this, I can't play that. They get mad at each other. So you give each other 2 weekends a month that you can do it. It usually works out. So I've got Zepparella 2 weekends a month, and then because we do all year long. Then I've got Dead Groove. We're trying 1 weekend a month right now as a new band, and hopefully we'll get in more eventually. And then the jams, you have to be asked to play. You can't show up and play. So Fred and I, Fred has been doing them a lot longer than I have. I just kind of was introduced into the family, and so one of the main partners that books there, we're actually all very good friends with them, and so they know our availability and things like that. So they ask us to be on the jams. It's not every single time, which is good because it kind of keeps the surprise up, you know what I mean? But it's really cool is like when I do play, people know who I am now. So it's like they're really excited when I'm there. The family is just really cool, and so much like networking and that, knowing so many people now in the music industry is really cool.
Dang. And then is one of the bands a bigger priority to you compared to the other?
Well, so it's kind of like having a day job and having a night job, you know what I mean, or a weekend job. At this point, Zepparella is my day job. But I also have another day job where I teach. I teach 2 days at the Huntington Beach School of Rock. So those don't ever, collide because they're on separate schedules, right? So sometimes I work 5-6 days a week. Sometimes I work 2. Sometimes, So basically, like juggling those aren't too hard. The jams aren't too hard. It's just, they've worked out so far with my schedule. And then throwing acoustic shows in there, it's just kind of, you just have to keep your schedule open. Let's keep your schedule well.
It makes sense. With you being in the Dead Groove Band and you guys starting to play shows nowadays, if you could have a dream tour lineup, what would your dream tour lineup be?
We would love to go on the road with Clutch.
Ooh.
That's my favorite band in the whole world.
And he uses a Rickenbacker too.
Yeah. Dan's awesome. Dan is, he's great. And we also really love Rival Sons. That's one of my very favorite bands too. Another band that I love, I think it would be a really good lineup. I've actually opened for her twice, I've opened for her once. I played the same venue as her another time. And my other bandmates may not feel this way, but I feel that it would be a good show. But with Dorothy.
Ooh, yeah, she's killing it right now too.
Yeah, she is. I've seen her whole career because I knew when she was doing like pop piano stuff, and then all of a sudden she's this badass rocker chick, and I'm like, yes, Dorothy.
Hey, that's always cool though.
Yeah, I actually played with Sam Van Bolton at the jam the other day. A couple songs. Great. Yeah. We played some Metallica together. That was awesome.
Dude, that's what's cool about the jams because I've seen the jams. All everyone I know plays them, and I'm just like I'm blown away with all you guys do, and like you guys bring so many different elements from what the musicians they have play on it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's, you know, we know the song, you know, at least a week before. Some of us know, you know, it just depends on when we get booked for. But typically, they right after the jam ends, they start working on the next jam. They ask the people once they get the lineups, they give the songs, and then we have that much time to get the songs ready. And when we go, we just know that, you know, what our tuning's supposed to be, and how we're supposed to play the song, and we try to play it, you know, like the specific version. And a lot of times you get together with the, you know, the lineup that you have, and you're like, okay, so how are we going to end the song? How are we going to start the song? Or how are we going to make this bridge go? You know, sometimes there's that little kind of in there, just questions, but a lot of times it's just pretty straightforward. And it's a lot of work if you you know, don't know the songs and they're hard songs. So I mean, I've had it both ways. I've had it to where I could just walk up there and play the song, and I've had it to where I've had to like really learn the song for 2 weeks and then go up there and try my best.
It's crazy because when you say this, it reminds me of like MI because they make you do live performance workshops, and as a bass player, you just roll in because there's not a lot of bass players there at that time that I went, but there's a million guitar players, so you never know what guitar player, and they always have to have a slot because you have to go on the website for the students and do slots. So what you're explaining sounds exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's cool though, but it's crazy.
I mean, it really makes you a better musician, you know, like I said, like with anybody and everybody that you can.
And then here's another one I wanted to ask you. So you've been in the industry for a very long time. What advice would you give your younger self?
Well, the cool thing is that I always didn't give a shit. So I wouldn't have to say that I would have to go back and say, you know, just don't care what other people think. I never gave a shit anyways. I knew who I was, and I knew that I was going to get better. So, but I will tell people to do that. Like, don't give a shit what other people say. You know what your journey is. You know how good you are and where you want to be. So just keep going, keep trying, and don't care about, you know, comments people make. Don't care about what is being said behind your back. I've had guys come up to me after a show and try to mansplain to me, like how to use my rig and how to use my bass and everything. And this happened to me on my first show, by the way. And I looked at the guys in the face and said, "You realize this is my first show, right?" Dang. And they were just like, "I know, but we just want to." And I'm like, "I know, but shut the fuck up. It's my first show." You know, yeah. like.
Not just that, you probably know how to use your gear better than they probably. They're just trying to really get at you half the time, thinking that that's the way in, and it's not even the way in. You know,
these guys are still in the same band in Dallas.
That's awesome.
So I already knew that was going to happen, so I don't give a shit.
That's awesome.
I mean, because you've actually given me a really great interview. You don't get these kind of like. I don't get a lot of like awesome interviews, so thank you so much. But I think that a lot of people, if they listen to the whole interview, they would be able to pick up on a few things that are good advice. You know, like playing with a lot of people. Don't take, you know, gigs where they're just going to pay you a lunch. you know, like know your worth. Just give it your all. Practice as much as possible. My first band, I would no lie, and most people will lie and say this, but I'm not lying when I say I practiced for 3 to 6 hours a day.
Dang.
For my first band, for my first show. I had 6 weeks to learn how to play the bass on the main stage of House of Blues in Dallas.
That's amazing.
And I wasn't gonna fuck it up. And I learned and I taught myself how to do those songs and how to understand the music and just go for it.
That makes sense. Believe me, for me, like, to be honest with you, I've never done something this extensive, like for the interview wise, but it's interesting hearing all this. Another thing I wanted to ask you for your new band. So for someone listening to you for the first time, what 3 songs would you suggest them to listen to?
hearing my new band. Yeah, it's such a hard question because I've just now gotten into getting some feedback from different people and stuff about the record, but everybody ends up liking different songs on the record. It's really crazy. I think, but what most people are saying is 69 Stingray is one of their favorites. And that's just about, it's actually, it's a song that is about my favorite car, but it doesn't mention 69 Stingray. So I tell everybody it's also a song of your favorite car. So you listen to the words, it says my moto. It doesn't say like my Stingray or whatever. It says my moto. So it's talking about your favorite car. And I think it's a really upbeat, and you'll be speeding on the highway if you listen to this song. It's very much what is it? That Steppenwolf. What is that song? I can't think of it. Anyways, it's a like Highway Star kind of. So 69 Stingray, The Devil, I think, because it's very Dorothy inspired. It's got this very like rich, classic vocals with these really great riffs. So I think that shows a lot of our like dynamics through the band. And then the last track, Into Infinity, because I feel like everybody's really vibing on that track right now. Like they're really, it's blowing up on YouTube. It's like our most listened to song on YouTube. I don't know if that's because it's the last track, but it's got a lot of elements that are not in the rest of the songs too. So it's really hard to pick three, and most of the time we say, Maverick and Book of the Dead, but we've already pushed those for so long. So right now I just feel like the 69 Stingray, Devil, and Into Infinity might give you a really good grasp on what we're doing.
That makes sense. It's a great record. I was listening to it right before I did this interview with you.
What do you like? What do you like the most?
It's really hard because like what I took from what your music is, they're all different. They're not like constant. It's not like the flow's perfect on the record. It's just like the Devil's a good one. Like that. There's like a few but it's not the same, like it's something different, and that's what I like. And that's why I wanted to do this interview, because all I do is metal interviews every day of my life. Yeah. And that's what I wanted. I wanted something different. Yeah. And this is different and it's cool. And you don't really hear this and like in the industry anymore. Like this had like such a, what I think right when I started listening to the first three songs, I was like, man, this has like a 70s feel. Like I'm thinking like Deep Purple, like Glenn Hughes era, like type of feel. And that's what I took.
We're huge Deep Purple fans.
Oh, Glenn Hughes is the shit. Well, that's my favorite era. But I just, like for you, it's like really hard because you have the I don't know.
The dynamics are there. Yeah, there's so many dynamics.
It was a great flow. That's why I had to bring up like the set. Oh, I always bring up the track list, but I had to know because I don't know. I really liked it. It's really hard for me to get into newer bands that try to have like that feel, but you guys just had it naturally. And it was different for me, Like I said, I have to listen to new metal bands or new records for metal bands every day. So this was like a nice nice like breeze of fresh air, dude. Like it was great.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you feel that way. I feel like that's kind of the consensus when we talk to people. They're like, I don't know what's my favorite. They're all great, but just great. Good. That's what you want, And we want it to be a great record. We wanted it to be something people could listen to over and over and over. We want you to go, okay, I want to go back, because the band name is Dead Grooves, so that comes from Dead Grooves on a record. You play the record so many times, the grooves become dead.
I should have asked that. I didn't even have to ask. You answered it. I didn't even have to ask it. What I was gonna bring up. So with you dropping a new record with your new band, gigging a lot with Zepparella, what else can we expect from you in 2023, 2024?
Well, I originally moved out to California to find a band, which I already have. That's the Dead Groove. To stay in Zepparella, and also to do acoustic songs, acoustic acts. So we'll see about how far I get with teaching this year. I really do love teaching, and I have online students, and I teach at a school. But we'll see how my schedule works out. But I'll be trying to fill in the on my already busy schedule with acoustic gigs. So that will be something in the near future, and hopefully a lot around LA.
I'll keep my eye out because I'd love to see you play live. I haven't seen you play live in a while, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that'd be
Well,
cool.
yeah. I mean, we're always playing with Zepparella. We're touring all year round.
Mhm.
Dead Groove, we're getting to those tours, we're getting to those shows, and we'll be touring all year round as well. Acoustic thing will also be year round. So I'll be playing.
I'll keep my eye out. Like, I wanted to go to the LA Guns one because I love LA Guns. I wanted to go to that, but I was in NAMM that weekend. I was like, great, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a hell of a drive to go to San Diego, then go back down. Like,
Yeah, well, we had to do that too. So yeah.
I know you're like, well, we had to. I
Yeah.
guess but I have to see you guys.
It is
But
hard. It's a hard drive. It's a hard drive.
well, for me, that's like an hour and a half from here because LA is closer. I could get to Burbank if I without traffic. I could get there probably in 35 minutes right now.
Okay.
So it's not that far. With you guys dropping a record, where can everyone keep up with you guys and buy this amazing new record?
So you can stream it anywhere. You can download it pretty much anywhere. If you want to buy the physical CD, you can go to rockavenuerecords.com and just find us on their roster, and you can buy a physical CD from there. And that's pretty much it that we have right now. We have clothing. We have a whole clothing line and clothing store called Dead Groove Clothing, and you can go on there and get merch from there as well. But as far as the record, you can find it anywhere online and rockavenuerecords.com.
Nice. And then I'd like to thank you for being on the show. It was great having you.
It's nice to meet you finally. I hate that we didn't run into each other at NAMM, but sometimes you just don't run into each other at NAMM. So
we'll end up running into each other. You know how it works in LA. We'll end up catching each other and hanging out, having a drink or something, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna end the show. See you guys next interview.